Lectures on the Sutra of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's Original Vow. Episode 2. Yesterday we talked about the title of the sutra and introduced Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Today we will continue to introduce Original Vow. The topic is of great importance to our study and cultivation, and we must understand it very clearly. It cannot be said that many students are not working hard or are not diligent, so why can't they achieve success? It is because we do not have a true understanding of the treasures in our hearts. In the past, no matter what industry people were in, especially scholars, Buddhism was no exception. The secular law attaches great importance to determination. If a person has no ambition, his lifelong efforts will have no goals, and of course there will be no results. Buddhism talks about making vows. Making vows has the same meaning as setting resolutions as people in the world do. We must make great vows. Why can't we make our wishes come true? This principle is not difficult to understand. The Buddha often uses metaphors in the sutras. For example, why can't the seeds of a plant germinate or grow? It is this seed that was not placed on the ground. We put the seeds on the table, in the teacup, and they will never sprout and grow. So I must have something to rely on. What to rely on? Rely on the earth and rely on your heart. If one's mind is not clear, how can one expect to have a wish? There is some truth to that. Trees need to rely on the earth to take root, thrive, bloom and bear fruit. The great vows of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are based on the heart, so the two words, Ksitigarbha, are very important. Why is it said that the practice of Mahayana Buddhism starts with Ksitigarbha? Your wish is established from Ksitigarbha, and your action is also established from Ksitigarbha. There is infinite wisdom, infinite virtue, and infinite talent hidden in your heart, and only then can you bring them into play. If you do not understand the treasure of virtue and power inherent in your mind, you will not achieve anything no matter how hard you practice. Here we say that wishes are seeds. The Avadhamsaka Sutra compares faith to a seed, which makes a lot of sense. If you don't believe, where do your wishes come from? Wish is called original wish, which I briefly mentioned in the last class. Ben has two meanings. From a practical point of view, you have made this wish in every life for countless kalpas. Why haven't you achieved it? The wish is made, but it does not come from the heart, nor from the true nature. Where is it sent from? It comes from the conscious mind, the false mind. The false mind is a mind that is born and dies, so your wish will die. If the wish is made from a true heart, it will not be extinguished. That's how it is. That's why it is called the original vow. This is a simple meaning. The deeper meaning is that original refers to the true nature. The great vow made from the true nature is called the original vow. You must know that if you truly make great vows based on your true nature, you are no longer an ordinary person, but a Dharmakaya Bodhisattva as mentioned in the Avadhamsaka Sutra. Because you will use your true heart. If you use your false heart, you are an ordinary person, and if you use your true heart, you are a Bodhisattva. You have all studied 100 Dharmas, an introductory textbook on Dharma nature and consciousness only. In the 100 Dharmas, it tells you about same nature and different nature. These two are the same as the meaning of original mentioned here. The nature of heterodox beings is to use a false mind. Different means different. It is different from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and the mind used is different. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas use the true mind, and you use a false mind. The difference between you and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is called heterodox nature. Who are heterogeneous? The 10 Dharma realms are all of different natures. Not to mention the ordinary people in the 6 realms, the Shravakas, Pratyabuddhas, Bodhisattvas, and the Buddhas in the 10 Dharma realms, such as the Tantra Buddhas and the common teaching Buddhas as taught by the Tiantai school, are all of different natures. Which ones are homologous? Same nature means using the same true heart as all Buddhas. If we use the words of the Yogacara school to explain it, transforming the 8 consciousnesses into the 4 wisdoms, this is using the true mind, which is the same nature. Same means the same as all Buddhas. We use the same heart as Buddha, the true heart. The Buddha's heart is like the full moon on the 15th day of the lunar month. If you know how to use the same nature, you will be like the crescent moon on the 2nd or 3rd day of the lunar month. Although the light of a crescent moon is different from that of a full moon, they are both real, genuine moonlight, not fake. The ancients compared it to the moon in the water, which is the shadow of the moon. That is called heterogeneity. It is different and not real. Although it is a crescent moon, like the Bodhisattvas in the 1st and 10th stages, they are really crescent moons. When they reach the 10th stage of practice, 10th stage of dedication, and 10th stage, their brilliance gradually increases. When they reach the stage of Tathagata fruition, they are a full moon. All of them use true heart. The faith built from the heart and the great wish initiated from the heart are the original vows. According to Good, such a vow can stand the test of time. No matter how strong the winds and waves are, it will not waver. No matter what kind of good or bad circumstances it is, it will not move him. Why? His wish came from the bottom of his heart. He was sincere. If the vow is not made with a true mind but with a false mind, the power of the vow is not strong. It is very weak and can be easily influenced by circumstances, and it is easy to lose direction. This is something we must know. The true heart is like the earth. The wisdom and virtue inherent in the true heart is like the root, and the vow is the foundation. Then your conduct, our thoughts, words and actions, are like the trunk, twigs, flowers, leaves and fruits of a tree, which will flourish naturally. So your wishes should come from your true heart. You must sincerely affirm the treasure in your own heart, which is no different from that of all the Buddhas in the 10 directions. You must affirm it. Build faith in this place and make great wishes from this place. Although we know from the scriptures that this happens, in our lives our deluded mind still controls everything. If one thing is deluded, everything is deluded. We cannot say that the mind and the vows I make are real and the rest of my life is delusional. This does not make sense. If one thing is true, all are true. If one thing is false, all are false. From this we can see that in our daily lives, we must correct our false habits. Otherwise, it is not called cultivation, it is fake. False cultivation is not true cultivation. True practice is not just about practicing from the root, which is what the sects advocate. That's why Zen achieves success quickly, and the root is the mind. The same is true for all teachings, including the Pure Land school. If one practices Pure Land Buddhism with a sincere heart, one will be reborn in the Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss, in the land of real reward and majestic adornment, and will not be reborn in the land of expedient means or the land of the common and sagely. However, the Pure Land school is indeed a convenient method. Any other sect or method will definitely not lead to success if you do not use your sincerity. But the benefit of Pure Land Buddhism lies here. The false mind can also be born in the land where ordinary people and sages coexist. This brings us great convenience. People who cannot completely eliminate their vexations and bad habits can succeed and be reborn in the Pure Land if they can practice according to the principles and methods described in the Pure Land sutras and treatises. This is the incomparable superiority of the Pure Land. So when you make a vow, what is the basis for it and where does it come from? We cannot but know. Let's talk about the actual facts. There are similarities and differences among things. Tong means common. It is the great vow shared by all bodhisattvas and all Buddhas. This is the 4 great vows. The 4 great vows are common vows. Where does this wish come from? What happened? It is the prajna and compassion that come from within one's own nature. Without wisdom, you cannot develop it, and without compassion, you cannot develop it either. Because of wisdom and compassion, they see the suffering of all living beings, especially those in the 6 realms, who have been trapped in the cycle of reincarnation since time immemorial and have no way to escape. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas saw this and so made the vow to save all sentient beings. This vow came from this place. Among the 4 noble truths, the one that is made is based on the truth of suffering. Do we make vows based on this? I don't know how many times more suffering modern beings suffer than those in ancient times. An unenlightened person has a foolish mind and his observations of worldly affairs are vague and abstract and he cannot see clearly. Technology has brought us some conveniences in life. Today's sound, light, chemistry and electricity did not exist in ancient times. But have you ever thought about how much we have to pay for enjoying the convenience of technology? You have to think about it carefully. This is what the ancients said, the loss outweighs the gain. The benefits we get are very small and short-lived, while the price we pay is too high and disproportionate. In other words, let's put it more clearly and understandably. If we prolong the time we spend suffering in the 6 realms and make the suffering we endure in the 6 realms more severe, do you think it's worth it? Why is this phenomenon? This kind of materialistic life increases our greed, anger, ignorance, and arrogance far less than in ancient times. In ancient times, people with this kind of life generally had less greed, anger, ignorance, and arrogance than they do now. In other words, his reincarnation time could be shortened and his suffering in the 6 realms could be reduced, but this is not the case for us today. Not to mention a long time ago, even half a century ago, no one said that the earth was sick or the ecological environment was unbalanced. No one had heard of air pollution or environmental pollution. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, no. Where are these nouns? Nowadays, technological progress is changing with each passing day, but you never expected the disasters it would bring. If these scientists suddenly realize that the negative consequences are too great, I think this science and technology will be terminated and will no longer be developed or carried out. Only a clear-headed and calm person can observe this. Therefore, all living beings suffer. Although material civilization has progressed, living beings live more miserably than before. There are some conveniences in material enjoyment, but no one can avoid spiritual pain. In today's society, even if you have a lot of wealth and a high status, you still cannot avoid it. How could people in ancient times live a leisurely and comfortable life? We have read a lot in ancient Chinese texts that in the past, officials, local heads, and leaders did not have busy work. They could finish their work in 1 or 2 hours a day. They spent the rest of their time reading, writing, painting, traveling, and leading a poetic and picturesque life. It's nothing like people today who live every minute and every second. What's so excessive about life? It's so stressful and painful. After knowing the truth, would you still be willing to be reborn into the human world? He won't come. Only Buddhas and great Bodhisattvas are enlightened people who come to save these suffering beings. To be honest, this vow among the 4 great vows is the true original vow. If you want to vow to save all sentient beings, you must be able to set an example and be a role model for them. That is virtue. Why do all beings suffer? Because afflictions are endless. The afflictions of views and thoughts are growing and expanding every day, and the consequences of this are inconceivable. Therefore, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas should set a good example and eliminate troubles. People in the world make mistakes, do not understand the truth about the universe and life, increase their greed, anger, ignorance and arrogance, and do things that harm others and benefit themselves by any means necessary, and do not know the law of cause and effect. People in the world often say that harming others will benefit oneself. In fact, this is wrong and they still do not understand the truth. If we understand the truth, we will know that harming others will definitely not benefit ourselves. This does not make sense. Only by benefiting others can you benefit yourself. This is the certain truth. How can you benefit yourself by harming others? However, they are confused and deluded, thinking that their own interests must be based on the loss of others and their own gain. This is delusion and it creates extremely serious sins. Therefore, we should promote the 4 lessons of life and let people recite it more often, so that they will understand that every sip and every bite of food is predestined in the life of every living being. What you have obtained by improper means is still what you are destined to have. If it's not your destiny, why don't you give it a try? Go and rob others and see if you can get it. It's not in your destiny. You've been arrested by the police before you even do anything. In other words, whatever you can steal, whatever you can rob, whatever you can seize, it is all destined for you, and you can get it without using these means, so why bother? Therefore, wise people often say, a gentleman is happy to be a gentleman, and a villain is wrong to be a villain. This means that the blessings in your life are the result of your cultivation in your previous life. You have this blessing in your destiny, and no force can stop it. You are determined to get it, and you are determined not to lose it. Why use these improper means? It is wrong. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas set the best examples for sentient beings in the world. You get it through improper means, but I can also get it through legitimate means. Why do you do these things that hurt others and yourself? Why not do more things that benefit yourself and others? Buddhas and Bodhisattvas act in this way, so they have the second vow, I vow to end endless afflictions. The most important thing is to set an example for others. You must set a good example for the general public and establish your own virtues so that you can be respected by the general public. Only if you are a moral person will they be willing to learn from you and listen to your advice. If your own morals are lacking, even if you say truly good things, others will be skeptical and will not be able to believe or accept them. Therefore, before saving sentient beings, one must first demonstrate one's virtues. There is no fixed standard for moral conduct. It depends on the current situation. What faults do ordinary people in this era and this region have? Only by targeting these pathological conditions can we achieve effective results. Nowadays, sentient beings are very greedy. They are greedy for fame, wealth, and the 5 desires and 6 dusts. When a bodhisattva appears, he must first let go of fame, wealth, and the 5 desires and 6 dusts. He must start from this. This is called benefiting oneself and others, achieving oneself and influencing sentient beings. If you only preach the Dharma but fail to put it into practice, others will be confused when they hear you. You speak so well, why don't you put it into practice? In other words, you will not be able to achieve the effect of saving sentient beings. So you must do it and say it yourself. You must do it first, and then you can talk about it. Then no one will have anything to say. Secondly, I say it first, and then I can do it myself and fulfill it. Nowadays, people are troubled and have forgotten their roots. Even Confucianism knows that the way will emerge when the roots are established. Now they have forgotten their roots. What can we do? What is, then? Ksitigarbha's original wish is to be filial to parents and serve teachers and elders. This is the original wish. Therefore, we should promote filial piety and knowing and repaying kindness. We should not only say it, but also put it into practice. Modern people only consider benefits in their relationships with others. If it benefits me today, we can be friends and I will respect you and flatter you. If it doesn't benefit me tomorrow, we will just be strangers on the street and we will no longer know each other. If there is a conflict of interests, then they are enemies. What kind of society is this? It is impossible to expect this society to remain in order. Buddhists still advocate filial piety and commemorate ancestors during the Qingming festival, the Zhongyuan festival and the Winter Solstice festival, which are 3 major festivals a year for ancestor worship and promote filial piety. I have had little blessings in my life, as I did not accumulate any blessings in my previous life. This is what the Buddhist scriptures say: cultivate wisdom, not blessings. However, I have not yet reached the level of an arhat holding an empty bowl. I have not fallen to that level yet, and I can still barely make ends meet. If I had great blessings, I would tell you that I would not build temples, but ancestral halls to promote filial piety. I have been saying this for decades. I hope to build ancestral halls and clan temples for the people, and hold major sacrifices during these 3 festivals every year to promote filial piety. It's a pity that sacrifices are now completely a formality. For example, our Qingming, Zhongyuan and Winter Solstice festivals should last for 7 days. The first few days are spent explaining and praising filial piety, and the ceremony is held on the last day, which is meaningful. Otherwise, it is just a formality. What is filial piety? What is the meaning of filial piety? I don't know, it's unlikely to be effective. Our country designates Confucius' birthday as Teacher's Day, which is held once a year to commemorate teachers. All sacrifices should now last for 7 days. Why do we need to cultivate filial piety? Why should we attach importance to teachers? Only if the facts are explained clearly to the general public can this ceremony be meaningful and not just a formality. Even some of the rituals in our daily Buddhism, for example, after the establishment of the Pure Land Society, the director advocated the Buddhist ceremony of 3-time recitation, so we have explained the 3-time recitation in detail. Before practicing the 3-time recitation, you must talk about the 3-time recitation. If you want to recite the Liang Emperor Repentance, you must explain it clearly from beginning to end. Then when everyone recites the repentance, their hearts will be in harmony and the effect will be achieved. If you know nothing about the principles, matters, and realms involved, and you follow that model to do things, you will not get any results. Therefore, this kind of repentance practiced by the ancients does have incredible power. Modern people like us do not see any effect from this kind of repentance, and this is the reason. If everyone is clear about these theories and realms, then there is no need to explain them. Just practice this ritual, okay? People nowadays don't understand and are not familiar with these rituals, so they must take classes in advance. All worldly and otherworldly laws are based on filial piety. Chinese Confucianism is based on filial piety. The so-called 6 classics are all footnotes to the Book of Filial Piety. By the same token, Mahayana Buddhism is based on filial piety. It can be said that all the teachings given by the Buddha over the 49 years are commentaries on the Ksitigarbha Sutra. If you can really go deep into it, you will be able to understand this meaning. These 2 vows are established by observing the 4 Noble Truths. The ability to observe the 4 Noble Truths is wisdom, and the ability to initiate this great vow is compassion. Both wisdom and compassion are in accordance with nature and are established from the nature. This is called the original vow. Just like bodhisattvas, what do they use to teach sentient beings and help them escape suffering and attain happiness? Bodhisattvas use Tao and extinction. This path, all Buddhas were also ordinary people in the past, and they cultivated themselves from ordinary people to become Buddhas. All Buddhas cultivated themselves from ordinary people to become Buddhas. This path, this road, is the path to becoming a Buddha. How did he achieve it? To pass on their experience and methods to those ordinary people who have not yet developed the mind of enlightenment, and those ordinary people who are confused and deluded, so they vow to learn the infinite Dharma. Bodhisattvas first set an example of cultivation for everyone to see, telling everyone that this is the right path, this is the truth, and this is the highest enjoyment in life. You want them to be enlightened and learn with you. Where to start learning? Start by learning to be filial to your parents and respect your teachers. This applies to both worldly and spiritual matters. Filial piety is no longer promoted in this world today and is gradually disappearing and being forgotten. The teacher-student relationship is based on filial piety. If he does not understand filial piety, how can he understand respecting teachers? Impossible things. So now when we see students disrespecting teachers, it is not surprising. If you want to blame them, you are wrong. We should regard being unfilial to parents and disrespectful to teachers as normal phenomena. This is the era we live in. If you see someone who knows how to be filial to his parents and respect his teachers, that is very unusual. In other words, that person is not an ordinary person. Who taught him? If he learns it on his own without anyone teaching him, then what else could he be but an additional person? He is not an ordinary person. In other words, ordinary people are definitely unable to accomplish what the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have done in their reincarnation. If you teach an ordinary person, he won't be able to accept it, so how can he do it automatically? Today, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas appear in this world with great compassion. Not only do you disrespect them, but you also slander them, abuse them, and insult them. These are all great storms, but the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas appear in the midst of them and remain unmoved. Why? His original wish is based on his true nature. No matter how you abuse it, after the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas appear in your presence, one day you will wake up and repent. This will take a long time to influence sentient beings. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas know that all sentient beings will definitely be affected, but because their karmic habits are too heavy, they cannot realize it in a short period of time. It takes a long time and a deep period of time before they are moved and willing to turn back. Then study hard and seriously to achieve the teaching goal of continuing the Buddha's wisdom, helping sentient beings and achieving the goals of sentient beings. The 4 words, filial piety and respect for teachers, are innate virtues, the virtues that are inherent in one's nature. If you can see your true nature, you will be able to accomplish it perfectly. If you cannot do it, it is because you have not seen your true nature and you are confused and deluded. Only the virtue of nature can develop one's true nature. How can one understand one's mind and see one's true nature? One must cultivate one's nature in order to see one's nature. It is difficult for modern people to cultivate and see one's nature. Master Ningshu told us in his, on reciting the Buddha's name, that he had never seen anyone who had realized the true nature of his mind in his entire life. Not only had he never seen one, he had never even heard of one. He said that he had seen people who had achieved Zen meditation through meditation. If one achieves samadhi through meditation, the reward is rebirth in the 4th heaven of meditation. This is very remarkable, but one cannot leave the 3 realms. To practice Zen, one must understand the mind and see the nature in order to leave the 3 realms. If one cannot understand the mind and see the nature, one cannot leave the 3 realms. This is what he said. In our time, practicing Zen is not as good as chanting Buddha's name. Chanting Buddha's name can allow one to be reborn with one's karma, and rebirth means leaving the 3 realms, not only leaving the 3 realms, but also leaving the 10 Dharma realms. He is the founder of the Tiantai sect. He passed away by chanting the Buddha's name. He passed away while sitting, which is very rare. Many of the Tiantai sect's patriarchs passed away by chanting Buddha's name, probably because of the influence of Master Jija, who passed away by chanting Buddha's name. Later, all their ancestors chanted the Buddha's name. Although they practiced meditation and insight, they did not give up chanting the Buddha's name. The real power was still in chanting the Buddha's name. However, it is true that the practice of meditation and insight can improve the quality of one's rebirth. Our ancients often talked about cultivating both Zen and Pure Land Buddhism. This is indeed the case with the Tiantai school. It truly is the practice of both Zen and Pure Land Buddhism. So filial piety is very important, very important. In the past, we often said in our lectures that the word filial piety and this symbol represent our true nature. The perfection of Chinese characters is rare in the world. The shape and appearance of this character are ideographic, so that when you see this character, you can understand the meaning inside, the meaning of this symbol. The upper half of the symbol for filial piety is the character old, and the lower half is the character sun. The two together are called filial piety. This explains that the previous generation and the next generation are one. This is the original meaning of the character, filial piety. There is a generation before the previous one, and the past has no beginning. There is a generation after the next one, and the future has no end. There is no beginning and no end, and they are one. This is from a vertical perspective. If there is a vertical line, there must be a horizontal line. So what does this symbol actually represent? The Buddhist teachings say that it extends vertically through the 3 periods of time and horizontally throughout the 10 directions. The 10 directions and the 3 periods of time are one and not two. In other words, the 10 directions and the 3 periods of time are one self. Isn't this the Dharmakaya mentioned in Buddhism? Dharmakaya means that the 10 directions and 3 periods of time are one and not two. The word filial piety in Buddhism refers to the Dharmakaya and the principal body. All worldly and otherworldly dharmas are born from this body, and are born from filial piety. How can one be unfilial? Filial piety is one heart, filial piety is one truth, filial piety is the Dharma realm. We who practice Mahayana Buddhism must understand this. Therefore, we should take it as the root and basis of our practice, and generate great compassion and mercy from it. This is the Guanyin method. Do you know what Guanyin's 1,000 hands and eyes represent? The eyes and hands are all there. When you see sentient beings suffering, you immediately go to help them. The 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes represent this meaning. Guanyin Bodhisattva has 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes. Does Manjushri Bodhisattva also have 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes? Does Samantabhadra Bodhisattva have 1,000 hands and eyes? On both sides of our Buddhist temple are Manjushri and Samantabhadra, who have 1,000 hands and eyes. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva also has 1,000 hands and eyes. Any Buddha or Bodhisattva has 1,000 hands and eyes. 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes represent the presence of eyes and hands. This does not mean a real 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes. It is actually what we in the world often say, that 2 hands are omnipotent. If you observe carefully, 2 hands are omnipotent. This is the meaning. This is what we should learn in our daily life. For all living beings, the ultimate goal of helping all living beings is, generally speaking, there are 3 types of goals. The lowest goal is to solve the current difficulties of sentient beings and help them live a happy and fulfilling life. This is a low-level short-term goal. The medium-term goal is to help him obtain blessings in the next life. We cannot let him enjoy happiness in this life and fall into the 3 evil paths in the next life. That would be pitiful and wrong. Enjoy happiness in this life, and continue to enjoy happiness in the next life, and hope that the blessings in the next life will be greater and more special than this life. This is the goal of a middle-level life. The long-term and great goal of saving sentient beings is to help them fully realize the Supreme Bodhi. In other words, to help them become Buddhas. This goal is truly achieved in perfection. Why do Buddhas and Bodhisattvas particularly praise the Pure Land method when they teach sentient beings? The 3 goals of the Pure Land method are all included in it. To be honest, this is the great perfection. Therefore, all Buddhas praise Amitabha Buddha and respect him as the most honorable among lights, the king among Buddhas. This means that he teaches and saves sentient beings, and these 3 goals are all accomplished. And it is true that the Pure Land religion is based on filial piety.